Hey, Sam here from Sugar Spun Run. Today we're making a very easy homemade Italian dressing. Italian dressing isn't really a thing in Italy. They mix together olive oil, vinegar, and some spices and they call it a day, generally speaking. In America, we have something very specific we think of when we think Italian seasoning. Super herby, olive oil, and vinegar. And unfortunately, the stuff you buy at the store is usually full of fake ingredients and doesn't always taste the best. I never buy Italian dressing from the store anymore because I have made this super flavorful homemade version. I would bet you probably have all of these ingredients in your pantry or accessible already. Let's put it together. It only takes a second. Grab a mason jar if you have one, perfect for mixing everything right in the container. We're going to add 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Now, olive oil does tend to have something of a distinct flavor. If you don't care for the flavor of olive oil, you could substitute half of this with a neutral cooking oil instead, like a refined avocado or canola or vegetable oil, but I'm actually trying to avoid vegetable oil, so I like all olive oil. Next, you need 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar. I think white wine would probably work just as well in this recipe if it's all you had, but red wine is what I've tested and what I love. A tablespoon of lemon juice, preferably fresh squeezed. Just squeeze this one off camera. It's going to add a nice acidity along with the vinegar. And a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Let's make sure we get all of that in. It's such a small amount, I don't want to leave any behind. Next, you need a teaspoon of a sweetener. So I'm using honey, just a teaspoon of honey. But you could use sugar, coconut sugar instead, that would be fine. It's not really to sweeten the dressing. This isn't a sweet dressing at all, but it really adds a depth of flavor and it's going to help everything emulsify properly. So it is important. Again, don't want to leave any behind. We're using such a small amount, we want all of it in there. Now for a really great flavor, I like to add fresh garlic into this recipe. If you didn't have it, you could substitute dried, but fresh really makes such a difference. I'm going to just take 1 clove of garlic. I picked the largest clove I could find in there, and I pressed mine. So I love this garlic press, super simple. You just press your clove through right into the jar. I just pressed mine into this dish. You could alternatively grate the garlic, that would also be fine, but I think it's messier and you get just as good of a flavor this way. No garlic left behind. Oh! Was a close one. All right, now for our herbs, to make this nice and easy, we're using dried herbs. We're going to start with a teaspoon of dried oregano. Just have my 1/2 teaspoon here, so I'll do 2 of those. A 1/2 teaspoon of dried basil. 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. Now for a little bit of heat, and because this is a really nice zesty dressing, I add just a pinch of crushed red pepper. So that's like about 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon. If you want it spicy, you could of course add more, but I'm not really going for heat. I just want it to be like zippy and zesty. Now, of course, you need some salt and pepper. We're going to be using 3/4 teaspoon of a finely crushed sea salt. If you don't have that, yes, you can use table salt, but I like to use kind of the highest quality ingredient I can. Obviously, I'm picking and choosing here, but using a nice salt really works nicely in this recipe. We're also using a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Again, if you can freshly crack it, which I did into this dish, that's even better than just using, regular black pepper in that red and white tin, which you could use if it's all you have. Finally, I like to add Parmesan cheese. Really love adding some finely grated Parmesan cheese to this. This is 2 tablespoons. If you were going vegan, you could swap out the honey for sugar and you could leave this out. That would be fine. But if you're not, I recommend including it. That is all of our ingredients. Now let's mix it up. Just put your lid on tightly. If you don't have a mason jar and you did this in a bowl, just use a whisk and whisk it up. But the mason jar makes things nice and easy because, put your lid on tightly enough, you just shake it. Now we're trying to emulsify all the ingredients, and the truth is you're going to notice it separate out as it sits. If you don't want it to separate so easily, you could use an immersion blender. You'll lose all of those, little bits of like the peppers and the herbs, but it'll still taste delicious and it'll stay uniform longer. To me, it's not a big deal just to shake it before I use it. Quick note that if you keep it in the fridge, you may notice the ingredients solidify. That's common with olive oil. Just let it sit at room temperature for a little bit and it will go back to its liquid form. All right, so that's it. That's how you make my favorite Italian dressing. I'm so excited for you to try this. I'm going to use it in my next video for my pasta salad. Can't wait for you to try that either. Let me know what you think. If you try it, I always love hearing from you. Of course you have to try it. Like I need it, but we need to give it a little taste test. If you let it sit for like 30 minutes, the flavors develop even more. Yeah, it's good. It's zesty, it's flavorful, it's good. Just press, ooh, I wish the dogs would stop barking. I don't know who's here. I never buy, I was gonna say olive oil. Spatula's fighting me. Just waiting for the dogs to stop barking.